Yes.
Okay, I'm on it.
Awesome. Awesome.
I tell you my day. My day has been Teams, some random weird thing overseas, Zoom, and that next I've got Google Meets. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
am like, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Is this recording now? Yes, it is.
Yeah. But you can cut this. You can trim it,
Yeah.
yeah?
I'm not cutting it. Simone can cut it because she's
Yeah.
like that kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Cara!
Hi, everyone.
Hi, gorgeous girl. That is a lot behind you, babe.
What
Yeah.
is
No,
it?
tell me that's not marking.
Is that
Oh,
mine?
no, the markings at my desk. I've left it there. It's like we've just finished. The year 10s are in the middle of their exam week. And I know it's early in the term, but it's got to do with kind of layering when reports are also due. So get the year 10 done and then their reports and then their marks for their ROSA go through. And then we've got year 9 and year 8 and year 7 and we've got to get it all done. So marking is on the desk. I've come to one of the classrooms and this is one of the geography teachers' classrooms. So
I see a map. That's all I needed for a geography.
Yeah, I was going to say that map's awesome in the background.
Giveaway. Total giveaway.
But it's a nice, quiet, contained one, and I know he's just gone home, so the room is going to be
Quiet.
silent space. Yeah, really nice. So she's got really lovely acoustics as well, and it's like it's contained. The sound doesn't not very echoey, so it's a good spot.
Good. We don't.
How is everyone?
Good. I have a question. With the record, I've not done it where I've actually ever had to look. Will it record visual too or not?
Should do.
Do you mean in terms of screen share or us?
Us now, because the notion was for it to be a video, not a recording of our voices.
No, on Zoom, when you save it, you get both the audio and the visual audio. You get both.
Okay.
When Zoom is when we hit words, I'm going to have to be very quiet.
Take a moment, babe. Take a moment.
I'm trying to find your run sheet.
Yes,
before,
I have,
which is awesome.
I've just done a little bit of a handwritten version of it to keep us honest. I don't know if Simone is joining to steer. If not, I'm happy to because I've got the notes, but I'm also happy to be led, and I bow down to your expertise. I know you do this. You've got nothing to offer. I've been in a room with you, lady. You don't.
What? I'm just there. Well, anyway, I'm happy to. I can be edited out later. Whatever. So
look,
so look, Lee, I know you're with Catholic Ed and you're running the digital tech, and Selena, what are you doing?
Everything.
Yeah, so I'm at Edith Cowan University.
Yeah.
And so I lead the Uni Prep Schools program, which is an in-school university enabling program.
Okay.
So I work with like 45 schools. So I'm part English teacher, part ICT.
Okay, but part mum. So are you in the pre-service teaching program? Is that what you're doing?
As well, yeah.
Okay.
So I teach one day a week in the pre-service teach program.
Okay, and so is Juliana at your uni?
Yeah, she's at Edith Cowan University. She joined start of this year, and she is leading. She's part of that AI strategy.
Yeah, she's
group across the university.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Simone.
Hi. I wasn't supposed to be in the recording. I was just coming in to say hello. Have you already started?
We're all. I'm just finding out.
Our meet and greet.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
What are you sorry for? Stop. We'd love to see.
You can edit it.
Yeah, we can
edit all this thing out.
Okay, is Ina coming and Juliana? Shall I just text them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Juliana's probably on one side of the campus trying to get to another side of the campus.
Okay.
You'll be all sweaty.
And Hannah, is that how you say your name?
Yeah, it's Hannah, like Loch Ness or Gute Nacht. That sound at the front of my name.
Okay. All right. And you're out of school, obviously.
Yeah, I'm similarly sort of like I was going to say hat with many trades. I'll catch up eventually. No, I was a high school teacher. I moved into teacher education primarily through UNSW alongside my PhD. And then PhD is just on pause for a little while. And so I'm working at a school now, full-time temporary till the end of the year. It's just a keep everything in balanced kind of move to make the PhD sustainable in the long term.
Yeah, I know.
What's the PhD, Arcana?
Also teacher education. So looking specifically at how student teachers develop professional agency during their initial teacher education.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
that's why you and Lee, are you
Yeah.
connected to that agency?
Simone, she's a lot. You're gonna love her.
I'm so
My
excited to
brain's
see.
feeling like I'm a lot right now, Lee.
It'd be interesting to compare that with people who've been in the profession for 2 or 3 years and see what the shift is there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Teachers agency is typically looked at through the lens of people who are in service, and it's not been looked at or conceptualized from the perspective of pre-service teachers themselves. So I'm taking a pragmatic, somewhat grounded approach and saying, well, if we document their experiences, because they are the authority on what the experience of the phenomena is, then what can we learn? How can we articulate or understand? Or I don't know. I'm not that far along.
Interesting. Yeah. I interviewed some Year 4 students, which is a bit different, but it's similar content.
End of a BA.
So they were Year 4 in primary school. No, primary.
Oh, okay. The little ones. Yeah.
Interviewed some Year 4 students, and it was about science. I said, do you see yourself as a scientist? Which is a little bit like saying, do you see yourself as a teacher? Like, that might be the sort of question. And almost to a child, they went, no, because I see myself as a science person, but I don't see myself as a scientist because that needs a lot of training. And I'm only 8, like
it's
really
save that for later. We need that.
Yeah, no, but that's really interesting because it's maybe you'll find something like that where people look and go, I've got to rack up a few years under my belt before I, can see myself as that.
The notion of expertise and how it feeds into age.
What about like a general sense of self-esteem or something that goes along with that? Like, when you have mathematical anxiety, we say the same thing.
A lot of it's it's that identity.
Kids will go, no, like that type of thing.
What's interesting about it, or what kind of, I guess, another fun piece with this, although to be honest, the methodology is starting to feel like a closet that has too much inside, and you're kind of like with your back to try and push it closed. What I'm doing in order to conceptualize what pre-service teacher agency might be as a way to then study it is to say that it's an outcome for them as students who are learning to teach. Their professional agency is part of the outcomes of their learning. And so I'm then looking at this 3-part framework put forward by Biesta that the outcomes of learning are our knowledge and skills, our socialization, or kind of our qualifications, our socialization, and also our personal subjectification. So who we become as a whole person, a unique individual, how that emerges as part of our learning and growing. And so when I then go to look at teacher professional agency for pre-service teachers, it's already got a holistic lens to it. Like, what are the 3 components that are showing up within the professional agency of these people? So I think that thing of identity, I mean, look, I can't predict, but it's probably going to overlap with so many other fields.
Yeah, like self-determination theory, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, and teacher identity is probably going to be a big one. And it's going to be interesting what it says in terms of theories of agency that currently exist, which typically sort of debate where the locus of control is for an individual. Like, is it, it's centered with the individual, or is it centered with the, I guess, the structures, that agency structure debate? And it's going to be really interesting. And I think at this point, I'm kind of predicting, I guess, that it's going to reinforce a lot of the things that have already been said, but just add that piece about personal growing to the picture, which is not accounted for anywhere, particularly not in the frameworks that currently govern the provision of teacher professional development through those initial years.
Does it relate to the imposter syndrome at all?
That's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Surely.
Possibly. I think I don't know enough about that from a theoretical standpoint.
What about
I know it in a pejorative sense.
Gender as well, would gender affect it? Because I wonder that, like, I remember seeing some research. I never remember the details. I'm the opposite of a PhD candidate. I'm just the general ideas kind of
Yeah, no, they're
way
good.
of thinking. But it was something along the lines of X% of women will, like, maybe, I don't know, 20% of women, something low, will apply for a job that they don't think that they're good enough for, whereas 80% of men will apply for a job that they don't think they're good enough for and think that they can do it. And I always relate more to the man, because I just go, yeah, I'm sure I can do it. And then I probably can't when I'm in there. But that's what I always say to my friend. I'm like, you don't know, like, oh no, I can't do this. There's sort of that feeling entrenched in there, and maybe a sense of vulnerability that once you get into a job, you have to pretend or put on a face, and you can't be as genuine and authentic, which, you know, I don't know whether there's any of those things that come into all of those questions.
In terms of agency, there is some literature around pre-service teachers who feel I think you're talking a little, I'm going to talk to the stuff that just came to mind. There was some loose connections to what you were saying, loose. So I'll just share it and you can make the connections in your own head. But there is some literature around the discrepancy that pre-service teachers experience between their aspirations for coming into teaching and the prescriptive nature and requirements of the profession itself. So I think that loosely speaks to the can I do what I want to do issue.
And what did I think it was? Selena's just asking what.
I was just going
to as being able to achieve what you aspire to achieve within a context. Like, to what extent is the context enabling or restricting? So that's the structure piece, but then there's also the internal landscape as well. It's a very, very complex picture, and like not substantially defined as a phenomena for pre-service teachers, or rather by. See, I'm trying to get first-person accounts and let them tell us what it is, and then I just document and say, here are the 3 portraits. So I'm using narrative portraiture as my method. So here are 3 narrative portraits of human experience. What do they tell us about what the phenomena is for these people?
Can I just ask, and this might segue us into actually the discussion for today, when we're looking at preset schemas of learning and notions of identity and agency. So, and you don't have to answer this, but what I often find is that when I teach the second year Bachelor of Education student classroom management, it's a very different experience to me teaching the grad dip Master of Teaching student classroom management, because the knowledge base that they already come with is significantly different. So a lot of my BEd students are quite fresh out of high school themselves, and they're forming their identity in their early 20s, whereas a lot of my grad dip and their teach students have got their first degree, have been out to work and decided that teaching is for them. And it really does, for me, shift the way that I approach things like classroom management, things like diversity and inclusion. And therefore, I think agency would have a very different outcome. So, so it'd just be interesting to know whether or not it's Bachelor of Education students, WA has gone back to grad dip students, or the Master of Teaching students, which all states have now had in place for about 3 years now. So that's kind of a rhetorical question, but I think Lee leads us a bit into the conversation that you've got dot pointed in terms of kind of cart before horse. What do we, around generative AI, like what do we build before we give access and those sorts of things? So I don't know, I'm not sure where Juliana
I've texted her. Ina was just her everything stopped working for her, but she's trying to connect now. There's Juliana.
I'm so sorry, guys. We just had very bad news here, and the whole department is kind of in shock. Are
you okay?
Yeah.
I just can't believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll cut that out of the recording.
Yeah, the whole department is collapsing here. We just.
Oh wow.
Is that because the the rest of the staff aren't willing to go ahead with the AI sort of
No.
No?
No,
There's
well,
there's someone leaving the team, and
Yeah.
yeah, we can't really say here.
Okay. All right.
In UTS, again, we have to cut all of this out of the recording. They're considering closing the entire education
No,
department.
not considering. I think
They
it's
have.
a fait accompli.
Yeah.
It's done. I
It's
think.
done.
They're
Yeah,
gone.
it's done.
They did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
At
Yeah.
UTS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
gone. I was at
Yeah.
an AI summit with leaders from every university on Monday. They're gone. That's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Done.
And it's the same at Macquarie. Like I've just
So
finished
do
up
they
with Macquarie.
redistribute the education?
Oh,
There are so many legal implications around this. We were told we couldn't talk about it, but there, yeah, we shouldn't say anymore.
Yeah, so let's start.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, yeah. So don't start the recording. I mean, you can cut
I
all
mean,
this out.
It's already
Yeah.
recording. Let's count backwards from 10 in our head and then start the
No,
formal
no, no, no. Hang on.
conversation.
Enna's trying to log on now. She's
okay.
she's having some
I'm
issues.
gonna rein in some control here. Let's rein in some
Nice.
control because
But I'm going to leave Lee once she gets in. So I just wanted to make 2 points, if that's okay. And then the control is.
I want
you.
you to hear what I was going to say though. So yeah, you say your points. Go.
Just 2 things that if you start talking about student agency, it would be really good to talk about what you were talking about before, but also bring in culture, because Ina also manages the leaders of Polynesian Māori principal networks or that type of thing, and so she's very big on upskilling that. And what I would really like within the conversation is this whole model of this school that she's developing in terms of AI and how it can impact student agency and culture and all of that. I just would love to, because she's done a lot of things in the area to get in, but in terms of the expertise that you can all bring to it, it's almost like this amazing guiding opportunity for her to be able to gain all of this knowledge from you guys. Anyway, sorry, carry on now. I just wanted to get that out.
So I was going to say, we'll just sort of do the counting backwards. I know that's a great idea. I've done it till 4:25. If we can aim for 4:20, I think that's probably better, just because I'm stressing out about the next present I've got. What I was going to do is, do we want one person sort of guiding the conversation? Do we think that's sensible? I've made a note of all
I
of
would say it's sensible just to make sure that we return to the key points that we want to think.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like a hard reining in, but maybe like a gentle steer.
Okay. Did you like what I wrote down? Did that make sense based on what Simone had? Yeah, okay, cool. And then I was just going to say it's probably best that we do, I won't open the chat because we'll be able to see it, and I don't know if that's sensible. But if you just raise your hand with the little guy, then I can steer it back. Does that make sense? Are they good rules? Okay.
As you can see, my computer died, so I don't have. I'm on my phone. Thank God for backup.
It's clearer.
It's clearer. I thought so. But it does mean it's hard for me to flick and find the thing. So I'll be a real hand going up.
That's great. We love your real hands.
Got two of them. And Selena, also, I'm sorry that the computer went poo as you were about to say something really interesting that I really wanted to hear. So email me or something. Or
you'll see the recording before the countdown. You can see. It was really good. It was a really good point. Okay, so I've emailed Ina the link.
Then here she is. Here she is.
Yes.
Ina, you made it. We're muchly delighted.
Oh.
Yay!
So sorry.
Celebration. No, celebrations all round.
Okay, I'm going to leave because we're going to stop it at 4:20 is sort of what we're thinking with Lee. I just gave a bit of a Lee's got the structure. She's working everything. She's sort of going to not moderate because we want it to be a conversation. We want to keep everyone's faces on there and that type of thing. It's a respectful, friendly, like it's basically women supporting women in the tech space. And that there will be a point where you can share what your plans are for the school and they can offer some really good insights because these people are all incredible and amazing, either in teaching, AI, pedagogy, all of these incredible things. So I will leave it with you all and I hope that you just really enjoy each other and We had a really good First Nations one. I just watched the video last night and I was just buzzing from it because everyone was just so, connected. And I just hope that there's going to be some connections made after this, because I really value and respect all of you, Hannah. I don't know you as well as everybody else, but from even what I've just seen now, it's, inspiring. So have a fabulous time, and I look forward to us all going
Thanks for
on
bringing
girls'
us together.
nights, girls' nights in the future, because you're all going to love it. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll count backwards from 10 and then we'll begin. Is that all right? And then I'll just speak after 10. All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be with you all. We might just start with a quick 30-second introduction so that everyone knows who we are. Let's start with you, Anne.
Hi, I'm Anne Forbes. I am associated with Macquarie Uni. I was in teacher ed in STEM education. I've also done quite a bit with AI. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Juliana?
I'm Juliana Pelos. I'm a Senior Learning Advisor at Easy Carwin University in Western Australia. Been working with AI for almost a decade now. So glad to be here and share some insights with you all.
Thank you. Hannah?
Anna Wayner. I work in teacher education through UNSW. I'm also doing my PhD there. Independently, I work as an education designer and coach professional development space with teachers, and I'm currently in schools at the coalface, as we say.
Thank you. Selena?
Kaya, I'm Selena Dondi-Tennikov, former secondary school teacher, but now I work at Edith Cowan University leading their in-school enabling program called Uni Prep Schools, and then 1 day a week teaching in the pre-service teacher program, and kind of spanning what I'm learning about artificial intelligence across both of those domains.
Okay, and we just lost Ina. She'll be back, so we'll ask her to introduce herself when she's back. She just dropped out. I'm Lee Barrett, career teacher, 23 years in the classroom, teaching English mainly, and have transitioned out into managing Catholic sector's approach to AI development and education. So we are a fine bunch of, as we said in the invitation, lovely women, and we've got a lot to say. And we've been asked to discuss, it's a fireside chat, so nothing really too formal, but student motivation in the age of AI. So I jotted down some questions and I just thought, put your hand up, step in where you see a need. But why do you think student motivation feels so fragile right now in this landscape we're in? Anyone want to answer that?
I'll jump in first. Oh,
No, off you go.
I think it's because it seems to be another bomb in a cycle of hits that young people have been taking over the past 10 years. Social media, and then moving to online learning, and now there's this. And so it's not necessarily that we're seeing a decline in motivation with generative AI in particular entering classrooms, but it's that we maybe didn't work through the motivation piece with those other 2 or 3 disruptions. So that's kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's really interesting coming back into the classroom or kind of at the secondary level. Can you still hear me if I'm just at this volume?
Yeah.
I asked some of the teachers in the staff room, I've got like year 10, year 9, my year 8s are quite rambunctious and so are the year 7s, but the 8s and 9s are like blood from a stone to get a peep out of them. And year 10s and 9s. And I asked some of the teachers in the staff room who had been here prior to COVID and post, I'm like, are they like, okay? Like, did something happen? Like in my head, I'm like, this is not what I remember of year 9 and 10. And I think there's something very interesting. My sort of researchy brain is doing a bit of a geek out on what do we mean by motivation? Like, are we talking intrinsic motivation? Are we talking about just like personal interest? Because that seems to be something that comes up a lot, especially in the IEPs that I'm reading. So like the personal learning plans for the students, that a lot of them, they will be very motivated if something interests them. That's a thing. But yeah, maybe just some interesting pieces there to play with.
Yeah, I've got something to say, but we'll go to Anne first. And sorry, whilst we have Ina back, hello, Ina. We're just in a question about student motivation and the perceived notion of it being fragile at the moment. We'll come back to you and you can introduce yourself, sorry, Anne.
I was sort of also thinking of like environmental things. So yes, it's digital and there's the social aspects, but there's also climate anxiety and a lot of things like that. There's a lot of conflict around the world. And so if you're feeling weighed down by that, then maybe you feel, what's the point? Like, why would I need to learn stuff? And with AI, maybe the perception is, well, it can do it all for me. So why do I need to learn whatever it is I need to, memorize information, because I can just get it, online easily. So I think those maybe are things to think about as well.
Yeah, I agree. Juliana.
Yeah, just going on the lines of in the same lines as Anne, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of education, right? Why are students learning? Because that will bring the motivation. So I had a little situation in one of the classes that I watched here, and we are talking about the higher education context. And the lecturer told me, oh, you should have come on an earlier class because we usually have more students than 7. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I started asking why the other, let's say, 20 students are not coming. So if it was week 11, so if the students didn't feel the need to come to class in week 11, this relationship wasn't built up. The meaning of coming to this class, the meaning of learning through the face-to-face mode is not happening. They are waiting for the recording to be watching at home if they ever watch it. Right. So it's just like, what are we, I'm bringing the responsibility to the lecturer, to the teacher. Like, how are we treating this motivation in the way of making sense of learning for students?
Do you think, I mean, my thoughts on this are, and just, again, it's anecdotal, like I'm not drawing upon any evidence-based research, but that sort of connective tissue between a student and the teacher and the sensitivity of this paradigm we're in, whereby kids intuitively know that all is not right. They can feel the instability in the landscape. I go into schools and I see these teachers petrified by the sight of me because I'm the AI lady and I'm going to have to make them learn something and it's scary. And kids know that. And so I feel even in my own children that there's this, I can't really be motivated because I've just not got 100% confidence in the environment I'm in to learn. I guess that's kind of my take on it. Ina, we haven't met you. Would you like to introduce yourselves? We just did a quick 30-second wrap.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry about all this technology and coming from one meeting to another. So I apologize. Talofa lava. My name is Ina Lakisoya. I'm the principal at a Sydney school. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land. I'm coming to you from Darug land. Yeah, I'm just so excited to be here. I've read some profiles of the amazing women in front of me. And so just listening to the conversations, you're talking about motivation. And I'm with you, Lee. I actually think it is the stigma. But I think our children, I was just speaking to my daughter on the way here, and she's using AI as a consultant, giving her advice about her personal relationships. But that even speaking to family members and children, many of them had already adopted and used AI, but it's the fear and the perception that teachers have put out there that it's cheating, and because through their lack of confidence and lack of experience, I'm talking about staff, because I've delivered professional learning for our principals here, and even some of our staff today from various high schools and primary schools were showing them what you can do and telling them that this is not cheating or making people dumber, which is what the perception is for a vast majority of people. They've never actually used it. It has the ability to leverage the workload so that you can actually do what's so important, and that's notice the kids, build the relationships. So I wonder if the motivation is really, maybe they're fearful because there still is a lot of I guess boundaries and policies around how much AI should be used in classrooms, and and how can we protect children from the dangers of using AI. So that's where we are in Sydney, and I'll speak in terms of not being too sure of how much and how we use it. And so I guess one of the things I'm working hard on is showing them, examples of how teachers are using it to help teach, to help kids have access to it rather than as a barrier.
Love that transparency. I think that's so important. Hannah, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think I realize what we're doing right now is sort of throwing down a whole bunch of pieces that are actually making up the landscape as a whole, going from like policy to purpose to, internal confidence. And I love that you spoke about connective tissue. Lee, my mind went back to this idea of purpose. This is just like another piece, really. The idea of purpose, and I think the what for, it throws me back to when I was first still teaching previously. And there were some kids who were like, I was trying to encourage them to think something through for themselves or whatever. And they were like, oh, think and do it. And there's, for a long time, like I'm talking since a whole decade now, there seems to be this theme around a weakening resolve to be generative. I find if a machine can do it for me, why should I? And in the higher education space, so I gave a presentation on the purpose of education in the age of AI, something like this at UNSW College. But one piece that I came to is we have enculturated a work landscape where efficiency and outcomes and like products, just get it done, is the most important thing. So I find them using, for students to use AI to just get it done rather than the deeper, wood burning experience of piecing things together, is actually them stepping into the very culture that we've modeled to them for decades and that we're still perpetuating. And I find it's like this funny tension because, Ina, I so love and I so respect the way in which you're using and so how you're enculturating the use of AI in your school. And I use various LLMs to help produce some work and worksheets and whatnot, but with content that I want, blah, blah, blah. But there's this funny tension then that we want them to use AI, but we need to shift the emphasis to using it to still be generative with the tool rather than have the tool do it for them, which is actually, as someone said to me, you're shifting culture. And I think that cultural tension is really quite a crux for the whole conversation around AI in the educative space, where it's very much about personal growing as well as learning to grow and utilize tools as part of that growing, if that makes sense.
And the industrial revolution model of education too.
Yeah.
We're basically adding things on to a really outdated system. Juliana, you had your hands up. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I think that it's not only a change of culture, but it's a change of paradigm. So it's
completely.
But what I wanted to talk about, the motivation is still, I think there is, and we saw this happening with other technologies, there is a disconnection of what's happening in the classroom and what's happening outside, especially at school level. So students are using AI in the most different ways. So we just saw Ina saying that her daughter is using for personal relationship counseling. And then we have teachers kind of pushing this tool outside the school walls. And, and I keep saying, like I had, I'm going to be talking to a school here at the university. And when I was preparing this and having a conversation with some leaders, they said, oh, it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to be, how the teachers are going to be responding, because so far it's only like, how can we avoid this instead of how can we bring this into the classroom? So how can we actually get students motivated to in the classroom if we are just refusing to use the tools that they will need when they graduate, right? So it's
I was going to say, what are your thoughts on that, Ina?
Yeah, no, it's like I was really excited to hear that, Jana, because that's where the model that I'm looking at, we have to model that the kids, students when using AI, not just to be consumers of it,
Yep.
but to use what they've learned to be producers, creators, designers. So that's why I think it's very important, because we will get into the state where children will think, well, why should I? Because it's already done for them. So that's why I think, like you're talking about paradigm shifts and models, and I think that's where one of the things that we're trying to do at our school, launching that whole use of AI to get the knowledge, to help build their personalized, learning plans. And I'm huge about equity, because one of the things that I was talking to the group that today was all Pacific Island teachers, educators, is that AI is not it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't have assumptions or bias to the actual learner. And there have been times throughout my whole life where we're labeled or stereotyped, or there's an assumption before I've even spoken, just because of where I come from, what I look like, or even by my name. And so one of the things that it does, it can be actually quite liberating, and that the fact that it doesn't have those personal biases will have the ability to connect knowledge to kids. But one of the key things that what I'm loving and I'm hearing here is, yes, I was laughing about my daughter using it as a advice, to get advice about relationship. But what was key was that she was reflecting about, it reminded me of what my friend said and what I actually feel. And and I'm thinking too, that perhaps it's right and that I need to let go of the past. And and that's where it's a tool. AI is only a tool, and we have to remind kids and teachers, it's only how we use it and how we demonstrate and model it will set the precedence for how kids will perceive it. So I totally agree with everything that everybody's saying. It's great.
I just want to add to that. I've debated whether to share this story, but it really tacks onto the back of what you were saying, Ina. I spoke with someone yesterday, and I won't reveal who this person is, but they were telling me about a drama that they'd had with a student who, within the friendship group, they had some friendship concerns, and they'd gone to AI to, try and navigate that tricky conflict space. And they ended up putting one of their friends on a personal improvement plan and making this friend accountable. I mean, that's bad. But I was thinking, how does that translate to motivation, student motivation? If we don't show them how to use it properly within this sort of triadic notion of intelligence, because who before was their authority? Well, it could be really bad sources, or it could be a trusted human figure, but now we don't have an insight into what they're doing or how they're doing it, and they're motivated not for learning, or maybe it is learning, I don't know, maybe it's learning how to be human, but we aren't able to control that, and all of a sudden you've got a 12-year-old girl being managed on a personal management plan. I mean, that's frightening. Yeah, take from that what you will. I'm going to put out another question, and it's about teachers' sense of validity in this space. And Ina, you sound like you're doing a great job. I know Selena will have a lot to say on this. Likewise, Anne. And I'd probably like to start with your anecdote that you shared before about the scientists, because what I always speak a lot about is epistemology and teachers' agency as epistemic validators of their thought. They are the gatekeepers of what is true, what we can share, or they used to be. And now there's this other authority or other intelligence. And your anecdote was great. And then perhaps we could segue into Selena and her.
Yeah. So what we were talking about was the notion of agency or identity. And for me, this was in a science education space in a primary school. So I was doing some videoing with permission from the school and the parents and the kids and everyone. And we asked the children who are about 8 years old, do you see yourself as a scientist? And we're going, oh, gee, we're really good. We run these cool science programs. So everyone's going to go, yes. And almost to a child, they said, well, no, because they said, I see myself as a science person, but not a scientist, because a scientist is someone who has trained for a very long time, and they're usually an adult and so on. And so it was interesting because their notion of they could see themselves as being good at science. They liked science, they liked doing it, but they didn't tag on to the label. And so I think maybe in this space, if we're looking at do people see themselves as having agency with AI, it could be a very fluid space. You know, it doesn't mean you've got to be at one end of the continuum. It might be that you just dabble with it a little bit, or you do just in time usage of it, or that kind of thing. It's a little bit, I think, to me, a bit like learning to drive a car. You know, if you're on your L plates and you're learning to drive a car, you don't need to know how the whole engine works. Okay. You just need to know how to make the car go and how to, you know, sort of not crash and stuff. And so it's that kind of idea, maybe, that it's not, you don't have to become this amazing expert straight off. It's just like you decide whether or not AI, artificial intelligence, is good for a particular task, or is it better to use human intelligence, HI, or a combination of them, and work that out. I think that's what would be helpful. So, yep.
Thank you. Selena, do you have a retort? And then I can see Hannah has something to say too.
Yeah, when I hear you talk about the scientists, I'm just drawn back to Jerome Bruner and, you know, all that theory from the 60s, make them a little historian, make them a little scientist. And not saying that all of Bruner's work has stood the test of time when we're looking at prejudice and bias in writing. But I always, before I stepped into the university space, I was very passionate about middle school and that transition from year 6 to year 7, when West Australian high schools at the time were moving year 7 into high school. And I did quite a bit of work around there. And so what we're going to have, which I'm concerned about, is that currently a lot of these generative AI tools have a 13 plus allowance. So we're going to have primary schools where they're legally not allowed to use it, and then suddenly thrust into high schools where it's kind of open slather. And I keep coming back to these schemas and going back to the scientist example. I remember reading lots of research at the time where middle school students thought that when they got to a high school science classroom, they were going to do experiments every day, because suddenly we're in these actual proper labs with Bunsen burners and chemicals and everything. But that wasn't the reality. Really, budget wise, a school can maybe do a cool experiment once a fortnight, once a month, maybe. So there was that disconnect between the expectations of the middle school students and what these teachers were actually equipped to do. So I keep thinking, what are we doing in that middle school space right now? What are we doing in that transition from primary school to high school around knowledges of artificial intelligence, which is why I think my work in the uni prep school space, the transition from year 12 to first year university, has the same sort of underpinnings as well. And it's about a collaborative conversation between those two groups of people that we don't always get the opportunity to do. So that's kind of my add on to what Anne had kind of had been saying.
Thank you. Amazing. Hannah, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was thinking, just as you were speaking, and I was thinking that you were talking a lot in essence to the nature of expertise, and that sort of, and then how expertise develops across different stages. And it made me then think about, we started off thinking about teachers with this question, and it linking back also to what you said earlier, Juliana, about this being a paradigm change. I think there's a really interesting change that has to happen around the notion of the role of a teacher, and what a teacher's expertise is. Because with AIs developing at breakneck speed in a way that I'm seeing in the classroom and in the professional development that's offered even at this school that I'm at, that disconnect to where the world is with AI and what teachers are grappling with or not, or what they're able to pick up or what they're exposed to even, right? Because their world is so immersed in the sort of, dare I say it, the daily grind. with very little additional headspace. These are things we know, but I'll say them explicitly anyway. That sort of additional mental energy to go into the learning of new tools for the classroom. The thing is, there's this framing of the teacher as still being the expert who knows more than the student. There's a framing of the teacher as the one who will lead the student in their acquisition of knowledge and skills, which now we're adding to that bucket as the knowledge and skills of AI and the socialization around AI. And we're still therefore positioning teachers as people who have to stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of where their students are. And that is, it's not erroneous. There's another word, and it's not fallacy, but there's another word that I've been sort of trying to find that says it's just it's a non-existent thing. Teachers cannot be an expert in the, I won't say traditional, but in the way that they have been positioned as experts to date. And I think that in terms of also what you were saying, Selena, what do teachers need to be equipped to do? That's a very big, I won't say a question mark, but that's something we need to do a lot of work of shaping and articulating, because that's very much what's shifting. And just an interesting point, I don't know if you're aware of this in other parts of Australia, but in New South Wales, the DET this term, in Term 4, has released the New South Wales EduChat as a sort of ChatGPT equivalent that is a safe and secure and regulated and all the things for the students to use. It's been available for teachers for a while, but now it's available to students as well. And we're just going through the rollout of getting all the signatures from parents so that the kids can then use it and blah, 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 blah. But I think I just wanted to throw that out there as something else.
So if teachers aren't gatekeepers any longer of knowledge and knowledge acquisition, what is their role?
I see it much more in terms of our expertise around learning and understanding the sort of knowing of the students and that connective tissue. It's interesting, that phrase you used earlier, you were talking about connective tissue, but you finished the sentence in a different way to the way I thought you were. I thought you were going to say the connective tissue between the teacher and the student, that relating and relational aspect. And I think I haven't formed all of my thoughts around this just yet, so I don't want to sort of like spit something out that is half-baked, but I see it much more in the shape of using our expertise as leaders of learning, and frankly, as adults who know the world, to sort of slip out of the skin of the dynamic of teacher and student and behavior management and all these blah, 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 and into a role of, I think co-design has to be a huge, huge part of pedagogy, of curriculum development and delivery. We can't know it all. And again, I feel myself going into the half-baked space, so I'm going to pull back a little bit. It's something I'm still chewing on.
Open to anyone else? Or what do you see the role of the teacher being in this shifted paradigm? I've got a couple of things actually to say. Remind me to come about the.
You've been moderating, yeah, sure. You jump in.
The South Australian EdChat analysis. I've crunched through that document, the findings, and we'll come back to that because it's relevant to what you just said about EduChat. And also we've got some meta-analysis from our own tool as well. Juliana, what do you think is perhaps not a teacher, but the role of an educator in this changed landscape?
Well, I would say with the teacher, because that's where my research was on. And this is pre-generative AI, and very soon I'll be publishing on this. But it's an interesting thing about the way, because we asked what they thought. We're talking about K-12 teachers, okay? So what were the perceptions on AI? This is pre-generative AI, so imagine like it was harder for us to have teachers using AI and having this kind of conversation happening. And And one of the themes that showed really pretty strongly was the role of teacher changing. So teachers knew the role was going to change, but they were not really sure how. And I recently read a paper from CBOT 2025, excellent writer, actually. It's a single author, a lady who's also interviewed by Neil Sewing on his podcast. And she's talking about the teacher's perceptions of being a digital facilitator. And for me, and she goes against this perception. She says, well, this is not what teachers are. But for me, like when I was reading and based on my research and everything that I've been going around, it's a lack of understanding of where should I go? What role do I have? So teachers don't actually understand what's their role at the moment. Where like, am I a digital facilitator? So I'm here just to show you how to use AI, and then AI will be taking my role. So this is a big confusion, and I think this is one of the questions I love when Phil Dawson says, like, all questions that we can't answer, right? So this is one of them, like, because they can't answer themselves because they have lost that space, right? They don't know where they go. However, on a kind of same lenses or not, we've been researching on assessment, like everyone, especially people in the higher education, like we're pretty lost in the way of validity in assessments. And one of the recent, I'll remember the author, but it was really interesting, and we're going to be writing about this as well. It's about the term relationality, right? How important the relationship is for everything that we make valid in the classroom. And it means learning, it means assessment and everything. However, it goes against the higher education context when we work with scalability. We have hundreds. So when we ask a teacher to have a relationship with his students and they have like 200 students, how is that possible? It's totally possible in a school when you have 30 students and you get an essay and say,
Oh, I think she froze. Did she freeze for you guys?
Yep.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, we got you back.
When they style of 200 people around, right? So yeah, so I think that this is easier to happen at the school level and more difficult in higher education. And I really like what Hannah said about the co-design. And Simon Buckhamshorn always said, and I bring this over and over again, about the hybrid forums, how important it is to have contributors from different parts, because no one knows it all, but everyone has a piece of expertise. So it's pretty much a puzzle. Let's put the pieces together so we can have the big picture.
Ina, what did you have to add? Thank you, Juliana. That was great.
Oh, I really, really like the idea of, and it's something that I've been reflecting on a lot, where the teacher or the educator, what their role is, because for the longest time, the perception of a teacher educator is the gatekeeper of knowledge, the expert. But like, if you think about the vast expanse of research and whatever expert field that you have, it's not humanly possible to read everything that's out there. Whereas, like, with the ability of AI, it can actually do that and give you the information. But the role of the educator, I think we're pivoters. We should be looking at how we can use that, notice the kid, notice the student, look at the relationships. One of the key examples today is one of our teachers was giving an example how she was using AI, and she had a unmotivated student who didn't want to do the writing task, and she knew that he wanted to get into construction, so he didn't see the relevance of doing a writing piece. I think it was exposition. And so what she did was use AI to be able to sort of like look at construction work. He has some sort of, I think, a liking towards, I'm not sure she said dragons, whether she meant the rugby team or the actual dragons, you know what I mean? But what she did was use his interests, get samples of writing, show him, like, how it links to writing, links into his proposed career. And so that was something that she was sharing, how she used AI to do that. And that's where I said that's where the human connection is so important, because you knew your student, you knew his area of need, you knew what he wanted to be, his aspirations, you were able to connect with him to see the relevance. And that's where, as teachers, I think we underestimate the power of our eyes and what we know, how far to push a student with their ability, when they actually need to step back or pivot to do something different, when they need a little bit of time to not give them the answer, but let them sweat it out. Now, AI can't do that. They can't analyze, can't analyze a student's, I guess, level of that level of point where you know when to push them and when to sort of give them support. But that's where I see
Their level of motivation.
yeah, well really it is. And that's the other thing, like I've seen in the years that I've been in education, and we all know this, there are some teachers that their classes will always, like, they've always high achieving classes, and then you've got some teachers, no matter who you put in there, the percentages in their grades, it's always quite low, right? So therefore the students that go into classes are also affected by the ability of a teacher, right? Their knowledge, their expertise, their connection, whatever it is that's hindering them. We know that there are patterns, in the same way that the kids will be excited about being in one person's class as opposed to someone else. And so that's where I think that a lot of teachers struggle because of time. And by using AI to leverage the work, they can focus on what's more important, the relationship, and understanding the child, their strengths, and so that's where I think you're right. It's the how we see ourselves. We got to not, and there is a fear with a lot of people I've been talking to. They feel like they have lost control, if that they will be invalidated. But I think what they don't realize is that it's a shift of our position to be pivoters. If anything, I think it's going to allow us to be even more engaged, entrenched, and involved with the students that we work with.
I've got two things to say, and then I know you guys had your hands up. I always talk about the adaptability quotient, Ina, and I think that's kind of relevant to what you're saying. The other thing I'll come back to. Selena.
I'm going to say something, and then I actually want to give it a segue to CE chat, Lee. I'm going to say something controversial here. And those on the chat who know me. I think we've allowed ourselves to be experts for too long. And we're not giving enough student voice in this space. And that's why I'm going to throw over to you in a moment, Lee, to CE chat, because when you see the conversations in the background that you're tracking, like the things that you're posting, I'm like, I didn't know students were thinking that way. And then I'll go and ask my own children, did you know about this color? That sort of thing. But what I'm finding so frustrating at the moment is suddenly we're forming a conference has a student panel like it's something new, and universities have been doing this for a while now. And it's like, why didn't we invite them in? And what I find so frustrating is that our young people have free reign on all of these tools at the moment, but us as educators cannot get ethics to interview them. Like Juliana and I have been knocked back 3 times now. Now I know Vince Wall is about to kick off a really good project because there is too much in the higher education space. But I just feel like we need to drop the ethics bar a little bit for the next 2 years, get a whole heap of student voice researched and consolidated, and let them lead us for the next 2 years. For the next 2 years, along with, in an Australian context, the social media ban that's coming in, because both things are happening at the same time. We cannot ignore that in the Australian context if there's any international viewers of this. So, Lee, I would love to hear a bit more about CE chat and kind of the insights that you get around motivation, around student agency, when you're looking at those chats every single day, because a lot of us don't have those insights. So I'm going to actually throw it to you to short, if that's okay.
And I wish we could produce in some sort of coherent documentation format what we're seeing, but we're not allowed.
We're not allowed.
I can only speak to it not in a granular sense, but in a broad brushstroke kind of thing.
Yeah, go for it.
I can tell you the most successful agents, I'm about to do a presentation in about 5 minutes, but the most successful agents I've seen are those whereby the teacher said, okay, kids, this is the topic. we're going to design an agent together. What do you want from it? And I'll describe one that a year 5 teacher designed. The kids were all gamification. We want to talk about power health and stuff. So this agent is called Ant King, and it's steered so that it's really aggressive and wahaha evil. I will punish you if you don't get it right. Now, ordinarily, we're in the world where everyone gets a gold medal, right? We can't offend kids. But the kids said, nah, stuff that. We want to be told we're bad if we get this wrong, and the agent has to tell us in an evil voice. And can you make the writing red with a black background? And this agent, I've never seen engagement like it. And it's a maths agent. Now, typically, she said that she could not gain traction with these kids with numeracy. They were struggling to be engaged. They designed this thing, they're playing in it, and they are learning. Sustained engagement. The other ones are like for, say, for example, HSC preparation. Exit tickets, we all do those as teachers, you know, leave it. But then you've got to collate it, and then you've got to go, oh God, who said this? They didn't put the name, I don't know. So this teacher has designed with the kids, they said this is what they wanted. These are the exit confirmations, so they have to confirm what they've learned. And then she designed another agent to analyze that with the names. Now, obviously, she can see that because within CE Chat, we're a locked down walled garden. But she can then get an analysis of what is the temperature in the room like that. Now that is transformative, and the kids are designing that. They're engaging with that. They're asking for that. So I don't know if that answers your question. What I will say is that the kids are super curious about the teacher's role. They ask a lot about who made this, who designed this agent. Is it Miss Barrett? Or did someone else do it? Are you really an LLM? They'll ask geopolitical questions in a space that I never would have imagined, or a sense I never would have imagined. And they're asking really personal things too, which Selena, you and I have commented on, you know, things around identity, things around well-being, which makes that ethical point you made earlier even more significant. I agree, we need far more robust research in the K-12 space, but I'm also concerned about how we do that in a way that sort of keeps everyone safe. I hope that answers. Hannah, I saw that you had something to say.
Yeah, I'm just caught in that moment where the conversation has kind of, gone in another little direction. So I don't want to necessarily bring it back. And I'm mindful that Anne, who has such a, glut, is that the right word, of knowledge, to like excess to share, hasn't said very much. So in half a second, I'd say that I just had a point around noticing that what you're doing, Ina, is steering the expertise of teachers with a sense of purpose, and that purpose is similar to the way you articulated it. It's similar to that of Montessori. You said notice the child, and Montessori is follow the child, right? So that teacher work, if we call it that, the tool of AI, whichever one is being used, then has a purpose. It's not about the landscape of AI or the landscape that has AI in it becoming the purpose. And there was a lot more to say around that, but I think that was just something I'd share. And then maybe, Anne, you'd like to take it home for us in this last minute.
Hi, man, bring it home.
No, I really like, Ina, your description of the pivoting. I think that's really important for teachers. I see the teacher as a relationship maker very much. And it's that reading of the class. And I guess we're talking mostly here maybe about primary. I take your point, Juliana. You can't do that if you have 200 or 300 students. It's really hard. And if you only see them, you know, for a few hours, you can't build that relationship. So it's different, I think, in a tertiary space. But I look at it as the teacher's got to look at the pedagogy, translating the pedagogy, the syllabus, and the kids. And then you've got all these tools that you can use. AI is swamping us at the moment. And so it's the new kid on the block. Everyone's trying to work out how it works and what we can do. But if you remember, like a decade ago, it was smart boards, or 15 years ago, it was like, I don't want a smart board. I want my blackboard and my whiteboard, and take that away. It's horrible. And now, without any thought, everyone uses smart board all the time, and the kids use it all the time. So a lot of it's just adjusting to the new world, I think. But you've also got to realize the ethics around the data and what you give these machines, and how they're controlled, I think, by government and that kind of thing. And I think the EduChat and CNET approach is a good one to start off with. It's like baby steps for education sectors. It's got guardrails, but you know, ultimately, if you think of AI, and AI is like an ocean, the ocean, if we're living on the shores of the ocean, we have to learn how to use it. So I think it's really critical you teach kids what AI is and what it's capable of, but also what humans can do, you know, how they're in the picture. You're not sidelined. So that's me.
Love that, Anne. You did bring it home. We're living on the shores of the ocean. We've got about a minute. If we have to leave educators with one word about student motivation in this era, what might it be? You can have two if you're really greedy, but think about maybe one word or a short sentence, just to sort of wrap this all up about student motivation in the AI era. Selena, I'm going to start with you because you're in the top left, and I know that's uncomfortable, but go, girl.
It's a tricky balance.
Great. Juliana?
I'll probably say what Rosie Latin says, like learn fast but act slowly. And just that article is called Authentic Assessment in Relational Pedagogy from Karen Griffith, if anyone wants to read 2024.
Hannah?
Stay open to possibility.
Do you like how as women cannot restrict how many words we use? I love this.
No. Okay, one word, possibility.
Okay, good girl. Ina?
Creativity and relationships.
Ooh. Anna?
And mine would be ownership. I think a lot of what, when people were describing the like you were saying, Lee, when the children were captivated by what they were doing, it's because they'd been given some ownership. And so if you give them that, and therefore teach them how to use the tools to do that, that's how you will get the motivation and the engagement.
Thanks, Anne.
Lee, what about you? Come on.
Selena and Lee? Unless I missed what Selena said, sorry.
Mine would be human. So just like we come first, and then the pedagogy, and then everything else. Well, ladies, this has been a joy to sit in a fireside chat with you. Yes. Just can't wait to connect with Ina. I've never met you before, Ina, and I'm so excited to learn more about the context. We didn't get onto too much about the cultural work you're doing, but there's got to be another fireside chat in us there.
Can we take a photo of all doing hearts?
Yeah.
Hang on, the one person has to take the photo then.
I'm doing it.
Who's an octopus?
Yay. Well done, girl. Okay,
Cool.
thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll pause this and say goodbye.
Brilliant. Good luck, Lee.
Thank you.